Yesterday we had a great visit with some monastics from Abbey, and for me the best part about this having time to get together and talk is to talk about the Dharma and hear different perspectives. And our tradition, the Buddhist tradition, is really an oral tradition foremost. And so we learn things being passed down from person to person. And yes, things are written down, and it's important to read those. And we did notice that the biggest sections in their library outside of the Pali was the Tibetan tradition, and in our library they noticed that we have a lot of books from the Pali canon, which is certainly the case. But still it's the oral tradition that is, because this is a living tradition, things get passed down from teacher to student. And this has been the case since the time of the Buddha. And so what this looks like is we're sitting out on the deck and we start asking. I have had a question that's been in my mind for a while, and who better to ask than people who read the Pali Canon, because it was a question that related to the Pali Canon. And so what's beautiful about it is the people sitting out there all had different levels of knowledge, but in their monastery in particular, it's not unusual for the monks to study and learn Pali. In fact, I think all of them learn the language, but some of them really take it on. And so the one person I was talking to, the one novice actually, could just tell me one sutta after another, like where my questions could be found. You can find more here, and in this one it says that. And in my practice, I'm working on it like this, and this is how the conversation went. And I think this is one of the richest kind of conversations that we ever have, because what I left from the day was really having a way to, between the visit that other folks made, visiting with these monastics a few days prior and their comments that they made, and then the whole visit, and then these conversations here, I was able to look at my own practice and kind of like try to put it in a different perspective slightly than I have. It's funny because it shouldn't seem any different, but it does somehow shed different lights. And so one of the things that they said, and that kind of started this off in terms of my own practice, was their kind of method in their community is to first have the individual work on themselves and then try to integrate that person into the community, is how it was kind of put to me. And of course, in Buddhism, we're always saying that it's an insider kind of thing, and we have to work on ourselves first before we can help others. But I hadn't really thought about that so much in relationship to community life in the way that they seem to embody it. I guess that's the big difference, is how they embody that teaching. And so in their tradition, of course, it's going to be different from how ours is, because we have different influences. But still, I think we can draw from this way that they practice. They come together definitely as a strong community, but they also have a lot of individual practice time and individual, endeavors that they work on to understand themselves as it relates to the practice. And so I, particularly, for example, just to give a real specific example, one comment that the novice monk made was, it was like, well, when I'm working on, I think he uses the 5 hindrances a lot, when I'm trying to work on this, because I asked him, what do you do in the afternoon? Well, I do mostly reading and sitting meditation. And then when I try to integrate myself in the community, I have to see what's taking me away from my meditation. What are the actual mental factors, I think is what he kind of came down to, that is actually taking me away from integrating myself in the community and doing what I'm trying to do in my meditation practice, which is actually no different from what we do here at all. But somehow the way it was all encapsulated felt fresh to me, and I don't know, there's some way that think it informs my practice that I hadn't really thought about before so clearly. Because when I say the words even to myself, it seems like, well, this is exactly what we do here. It's kind of like when Venerable gives the teaching and then we go hear the same teaching from someone else and it goes in or something. Maybe it's more like that, I don't know. So anyway, yeah, it was a very wonderful day, and I think we all benefited very much, and this is one of the ways that I think we benefit the most, is to try to, from all these different perspectives, from all the different historical time periods and all the different influences and all the different areas that certain masters were able to cultivate quite well and develop, which is what really a lot of the conversations went to, is how their different lineage holders held this and this and this, and how they went about things and why they did it this way and that way. And it was really, I think it really informs how we move, how we look at our own practice, and I think this is really the way that the tradition is carried forward. So wonderful.